Hi guys, my name is Bob Greenyer and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, and I have an absolute treat for you today. I absolutely cannot believe what I have witnessed today. When you see something in your mind's eye and things keep appearing and over and over and over again, and you've convinced yourself of something, that's a very, very different matter to being able to convince someone else of something. But at about I guess about 5:45, I started a ultra experiment here in our lab, and I have recorded the whole thing. I haven't edited it, but I have put it into a stream, so I'm going to show you that in a little while. But I just want to tell you, whilst people are coming into the room, that stubble can clear. Yeah, had no time. So you got a day off yesterday because we were told that for the first time since middle of January, our children could go back to school for 1 week on, 1 week off. And that was fantastic. We're going, yeah, you can finally really start pounding the metal. And then 10 minutes later, our lodger came out of his room and said, my doctor's just phoned me and my PCR test is positive. I have COVID, which was a complete shocker. So my darling wife and I gave ourselves a test to see if we had it at the time, and we both turned out negative here. And so we didn't have it at the time. That was yesterday afternoon, and we went and set about going to the local centre to see if we have antibodies. Now, if you recall, I lost my sense of smell and my SpO2 got very low last year, and I was in a bad way. It was a very odd feeling, and thank you to the support I had during that time. It was very early on. And anyway, my whole family went and got tested today to see if we had antibodies, because in theory, if I've already had it, I should have antibodies. Well, it would appear that I do. And there you go. So I am positive in a good way that I have antibodies. And this is really, really important for the project. And there is not a vaccine. Now, I said that word, so this video will be demonetized. But there is not a vaccine on God's green earth that will give me as long-lived protection as I have from these antibodies, because this is over a year ago that I had it, and that will always be the case as long as I've got antibodies. The other interesting thing is, being in a house with someone who is currently positive, I'm giving my antibodies a run for their money. So this is an experiment I think everyone in the world should be interested in. Do antibodies acquired possibly as much as a year ago still give you protection? Well, you're going to find out in the next couple of weeks, okay? The good thing is that, assuming it does see me through and I don't get a new infection, then I can't infect Takaaki Matsumoto, and I can't infect John Hutcheson, and I can't infect other people that I intend to do research with that was put off last year. The only thing standing in my way is governments. That's it, just governments. But from the point of view of the project, it means that if they sort their nonsense out, and people who are protected naturally, like myself, then I should be able to go and meet people without any risk of giving it to them, catching it on the flight, or we will know in a couple of weeks. Anyway, so that's the news. Hopefully, but we've got 21 people in the room here, and so I'm going to try and set something off. And first I have to load it into Premiere. And I have no idea whether this is going to play, but we will find out shortly, because it's a 4K stream and it's going to be streaming it, and we will see. But it's the whole Ultra experiment. I would have edited it, but literally I concluded this experiment up to the point that you see at 7 p.m, which was just a couple of hours ago. And in a little while, I am going to be showing you a live stream for the first time, and I haven't even seen this, of the same thing that I ran earlier, which you can see if I put my finger in shot over here, there, this one. This is the plate that you're going to see, and that's the aluminium foil, and you are going to see for the first time, at the same time that I'm going to see, this dyno light microscope looking at this sample when I run it. I've never seen this before. You're going to see it, but there is something unbelievably, unimaginably awesome about what occurred a couple of hours ago. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a lead into that, and I'm going to do it like this. So give me, I need Photoshop, and I need to drag an image out. Okay. Just give me a second. And we're gonna look at a live experiment, and then we are going to look at it with the microscope under polarizing filters, either the one straight out of the tank or something else. But I'm first going to show you this image. So take off the rulers, and okay. So what you are looking at here, I showed you the other day, and I talked about the Tom Claytor, who worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory. I talked about his replication of Stringham. And that's Roger Stringham, who lives in Hawaii, and he has been doing cavitation mostly with devices that are the same kind of frequency as the one that we are going to be using tonight. But he went on to higher frequency, and this was a 1.7 megahertz device that Tom Claytor was using to replicate Stringham's cavitation. And in the center of this palladium and 2% silver foil in heavy water, as we discussed the other day, he found this accretion right in the center. There's a little bit of cavitation damage over here, but there's this accretion. Now, the thing on the right-hand side, actually, this image is called Heart. And I talked about this in my last presentation, but when he showed this at ICCF 21 in Colorado, I immediately recognized what I was looking at. And the reason I immediately recognized what I was looking at is because I'd seen them in a couple of other systems. So anyway, this is from Lion. And typically these things are slightly one-sided. And so you can see it's one-sided here. And this is the magnetohydrodynamic structure here. And you can see it pinches in at the top, and they're overlaid 50% their width, and the radius goes through the center of the one on the opposite side. And here is from OHMA. Now, when I analyzed this in full, and I will take you to that slide in a second, when I analyzed this in full, it showed that in every case you always have one of these above the other, one of these above the other, one of these above the other. And so this is in Project OHMA. So this is a heat reactor, and it's not in the core of the reactor. The one on the right here is what I found when I was working on Project OHMA is and I kind of, it was looking and examining the line reactor materials, both with cameras and in the scanning electron microscope. They behaved like they were polarizing light. And so when I was going to visit Dr. Roish Omarza, I said to myself, I need a microscope so that I can look for strange radiation on the vibrator plates, and I need a polarizer. So those were my two requirements, because I believed I would see something interesting with a polarizer. And so it was. On the very first evening of the very first day, we actually had a vibrator plate given to us, and we observed out of a cavitation spot a strange radiation track, a classic type of spiral coming out, and it was like a double helix spiral coming out of that. And so what I've done is I've used the polarizer actually on this from my third experiment using Ultra. So it's this one here, this little sheet here that I used, and I looked at that. That was out of a previous experiment. And there are many structures that have a kind of left-hand, right-hand side, and this is one of them, and this was part of the keyframe. And the one down the bottom here is actually on a palladium coated Omarza vibrator plate, and I studied that in depth. And when I studied that, I found two sort of vortices around this left-hand side going in. And this kind of confirmed my thinking that these were, in this case, it's definitely hydrodynamic. In the case of the Ultra, it's hydrodynamic. In the case of the Lion, there's no water involved other than it's got heavy water in the core. This is actually in free air that this damage has occurred. And the Parkhomov 225-day reactor, this is so beautiful because it's actually a three-dimensional structure which bears the same hallmarks as this heart-shaped structure. And so it wasn't so much the blob on top, it's the blob that after they took this accretion off and found transmuted elements that were not in any part of the pure metal, the D2O, or the reactor materials they found, and classic type of elements that you would find in LENR systems. It revealed this heart shape underneath, and when I saw the first slide, it was like, well, I know what that is. And then when I saw the second one, I said, I don't know what that is. And if you go to my ICCF 22 presentation, I refer to this as the pretzel. And in fact, on a plane from ICCF 21 in Colorado to visit John Hutcheson for the first time with Alan Goldwater, I was given a pack of little pretzels on the plane, and I looked at it and it just made me smile, and I put it over on the seat and I took a picture, and I will do an entire presentation on that. But let me just dig up the analysis slide if I can. If I can, will it let me do that? I got it in here. That would be good if I have. Don't know whether I have. Oh yes, I have. I'm not too much of an idiot. Sometimes I'm an idiot, but not today. Give me a second. Okay. So, can everybody see that? So I've talked about this at length in other videos. So you can see the heart-shaped structure at the top and the field area that it affects around it. And this was taken with this Dino Light microscope. And then I took it to California and put it on Alan Goldwater's SEM in his Magic Sound lab, and I looked at it. Now on the one that is what I would call the spin one, you have a vortex on the chrome and the magnesium. And in the center of the vortex, you have a crystal. And I identified that it looked clear, and it had a one-side reflection and an internal reflection. And it turns out that if you look at it, it's essentially carbon. And so this looks like at the center of the vortex, when the vortex has died, it dumped a diamond. And as I've said before, in many different experiments, you get carbon synthesized. And both Yule Brown said carbon is synthesized, and the it's actually I think in his patent, and also Takaaki Matsumoto said predominantly whatever elements you put in, you get carbon being synthesized, and so this is the focal point and where the carbon is coming from. And also Leclerc said you make a lot of carbon, and I think what you're going to do by the end of tonight, you're going to understand exactly how that occurs. Anyway, so we've got this kind of vortices going on here. And if you know, essentially, if you take carbon and you do double carbon, you end up with magnesium. And so we actually have magnesium in these red parts of the vortices. And then if you take magnesium, the isotopes of magnesium, and you fuse them together, whichever ones you like, you end up with the isotopes of chromium. And effectively, in between the sort of vortex filaments of the magnesium, you have chromium. And so you basically have two carbons make magnesium, and two magnesiums make chromium. And that is what you're seeing in this figure of 8, but I call them a heart because of the way they spin, and one is generally on top of the other, you end up with one that's slightly more prone, and it slightly distorts. And you can see on the backscatter image here, this one is on top of this. And you'll have seen this in the Lion reactors as well, in the material that we looked at on the outside of the reactor. Okay, did everyone see that? Okay. Yes, I'm hungry, Kim. Okay, so what I'm saying is that in this image I call heart. Now, if you go and look at the 10 yen coin, I said at the time, because I've seen so many of these structures, I said at the time that I think that's been eaten. Not just melted, but eaten. And it has a very, very sharp boundary. And I believe that the section that's taken out of there, you've got one side that's kind of slightly damaged, and you've got a hole. And I believe that it's exactly the same structure you're seeing in all of these heart things here. The actual piece that's been eaten out is this heart-shaped structure. And you're going to see something so mind-bendingly awesome today. And for me, this is kind of like, anyone can do this. And I will play for you, hopefully it will play, the entire experiment from beginning to end, and the video recorded. It's only 1080p here, but I will upload it at 4K, so you can see the whole thing at 4K. And you can examine it, and then we're going to see if we can see this thing even closer for the first time ever on this stream. First time for me and first time for you. Okay, so but it's been a case for all these years that I've seen these structures, and the beautiful one that came in the Parkhomov 225 day in a core felt, that was just it's almost how can I put this? It's spiritual. There is no way. How on earth was it that I was given the bit in the reactor that had this incredible structure? If you look at it, it's a couple of layers of this fluffy type of carbon in tubes, and it's wound into this pretzel with this like a round bit here, and on the other side it has this sphere. And the sphere is exactly where it should be. and it's where you're getting where this carbon is. You're in that sphere. You're getting the calcium. So in fact, it's the opposite side. I think one side you get the heavy elements, and the other side it just ends up making a lot of carbon. Anyway, so let me try and upload this video, and if you have any questions, I'll take them before I fire the video. Okay. Actually, before I just want to close out this, so I need to press play on this. Is it going to work? Okay. So this is the Solin patent, and this was applied for in October 1992. And what you are looking here in the Solin patent, I can't actually move my mouse over there, can I? I've got the same problem I had the other day. Anyway, I'll come out of that and I'll drag it up there. Okay. So I can show you things with my mouse. Okay, so in these images, you see these magnetohydrodynamic structures, and there's a little pointy bit on many of them. They tend to have this kind of heart-shaped slight asymmetry, and you might remember me saying a number of times on various forums, we are literally made in this technology's image. We are literally, it doesn't matter which part of the body. When you see the shapes that this thing creates, it is the shape of what we are. But the heart is one of the most significant ones. So look at what he's drawn here. He's drawn this slightly off-centered blob here. This is a longer one, and I will show you one when I do the specific presentation on what I call the pretzel, one that's exactly the shape. So you have one over the top of the other one, and this kind of tail that comes down. This is the same thing. He doesn't realize it, but it's the same. He's actually got the vortex coming round here, goes round there, goes round there. He's actually drawn the pretzel here with the central focus point over here. These are the kind of marks you get because they move around and self-organize. But here's the most clear ones where he's just showing the basic magnetohydrodynamic structure and so forth. And in fact, this is again the same structure. And when we look at this one here, this is again the same structure. So he's drawn in many different ways the absolute key structure in this science, in my view. And it's made from solitons that form magnetic charges, and there is a north and a south magnetic charge. Okay. And this, which I showed many, many moons ago, I called it the triangle, and I said one day this will be very, very significant. This is this same structure. And you will have had two vortices, one on top of the other, and one of them is pulling in the material and synthesizing it. And there's no calcium in the reactor, and we get calcium. What is calcium? It's Dec alpha. So there is copper in the reactor, and obviously we've got oxygen in the air, and there's carbon from the core. Okay, so that is that. This is another one that was on the outside of the reactor, and these are just normal bead chains. These are from shoulders, and this is from the Lion reactor. So he saw bead chains as well, but most of the structures that he is showing in here are the structures, and so I've showed the heart-shaped one. This is effectively a heart-shaped one, but a slightly off-centered one. This is a heart-shaped one that's moved a little bit. This is a heart-shaped one, which is not quite so well-defined, but he's actually drawing the pretzel in there. This is the heart-shaped one, and I'm going to show an absolutely unimaginably amazing thing that was observed during Project OHMA, the analysis of. And so those are all the heart-shaped ones. The vortices, which are very, very big and they don't express so much the heart-shaped ones, these ones, we've seen absolute total clarity on those in the case of this massive structure and this massive structure. But they still have this overlay on top of the other one, overlay on top of the other one. So this is, for me, the key structure in LENR. This is, it doesn't matter what system you look at. As I said, I have many examples in many different systems, and what you are seeing here is in Lion. This is not in a hydrodynamic system. This is in Ultra yesterday, and it's in a hydrodynamic system. So this is magnetohydrodynamic. This is in a hydrodynamic system in Mars's plate, and this is magnetohydrodynamic, and in both of these are in glorious 3D. This is 3D and this is 3D, but these are this structure in Parker-Moss reactor. As I said to you in the last presentation, I was able to fire the electron beam in Alan's Goldwater's electron microscope and roll this around. It was very well self-contained, so I got to see both sides of it, and I shared that at ICCF 22. And if you go and look at the presentation, I said this is going to become a very important structure, and you are going to see today. So without further ado, I'm going to try and get this video running. Okay. Give me 1 second, I have to kill something. Let's kill that for a start. Okay. Oh dear. You have to bear with me. It's wanting me to update Premiere before it'll allow me to play this. So just give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. This really is worth the wait. I tell you, this really is worth the wait. And I think I'm going to reveal another Ode slide, a very, very significant one today. I think it's in the 70s slide, one of the 70s slides. Okay. Sorry, this is very, very annoying that I have to update this. Hopefully it doesn't break anything. Thanks, Kim. I couldn't have done this without you, really, really. I was so excited when I came home to try and eat something, but I didn't actually eat anything. I've got some spicy hummus here, and a bread roll that I'm going to take a look at in a little while. Feed myself. Well, whilst I'm showing you this video, which I can't show you because. Anyway, because it's being very slow. Why is that being very slow? Okay, let me just give it another connection. Very sorry about this. I'd had more time. I basically I could have put this off to tomorrow, but it's just too important. I have to show you this because it's just amazing. It's just amazing. Oh, well, this is going to be very annoying. I think it's seeing this as... Okay, continue. We might be okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Come on. Yes. Okay, find the files, find the files. You found the files? No. Oh dear. Yes. Okay. I don't know whether this is going to play. Let me see. We'll see. It might get very hot. Let's hope it plays. And let's see if the audio is routing through. Nearly there. Actually, still not that one then. Okay, you should be hearing that audio. I hope you do. Let me know if you don't. Okay. Okay. I hope you can see this. We shall find out shortly, and then I can have a snack whilst you're watching it, and I will look through your questions. But let me see if you can see this. So, can you see that? And hopefully you will be able to get the audio as well, and we shall find out very shortly. Hello boys and girls, my name is Bob Greenyer and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Okay, so this is a tutorial on how to build a quantum coherent Hello boys and girls, my name is Bob Greenyer and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Okay, so this is a tutorial on how to build a quantum coherent torsion field reactor using the equipment you see in front of you. This is something that you can do at home and it is using equipment that is certified for use in any country that I can think of. And the main component you're going to need is this. This is an ultrasonic cleaner, which is used for cleaning jewelry. And they typically retail for about $35, $40. You can get them cheaper maybe. This one was bought in the US. Thank you to the donor that provided it. And it was the same device that Alan Goldwater had a little bit of serendipity in 2019 when he was cleaning a sample that was a control for an experiment we had done in Japan using another system by Dr. Roishin Amasa, which is a vibrator system, which it turns out through investigation actually had some ultrasonics going on. And so basically this is a little tank in here. I've actually removed the hinge on the lid. You don't have to do that, but I have. It makes it easier to get it on and off, and it's not really relevant. And so it has a little cavity in here, and under here there is a 43 kilohertz in this case transducer, PZT transducer, that oscillates at 43 kilohertz, and it produces a set of resonant modes in here, and when it's filled with water. And the water I'm using is
high quality domestic tap water here, and this comes from a local faucet, and I've just loaded it into this portable transportation vessel here. And we're going to need some aluminium foil, or aluminum for those of you in the States. And you should be able to find this at any hardware store or any sort of a grocery store. And it shouldn't cost you much, and we don't really need very much. You might find this in your parents' kitchen. And we have this one cut into about 20 centimeters square. And to do that, we used this device, which is the only thing we're not going to be needing beyond the point of cutting, and a sharp knife. And this is something you need to be asking your adult around you, maybe your mother or father, to help you with. And then the last component we need, you may not be familiar with these, but these are CD, and these were used, in fact it's CDR, and you could write on these. This is before you had things like micro SD cards and just cloud storage. You were able to store a lot of information on these, almost 74 minutes of music and stuff like that. And anyway, this you should still be able to, if you're lucky, be able to buy these at your local computer shop, because people do actually still use them. And what we're after is this bit of plastic, and it's going to act as like a glass bottom boat. And this was an innovation that was invented by a chap called Alan Cusk. And the interesting thing about this is that they all seem to have this little lip, and it means that they can stack them in the shops. But the lip provides a little bit of space for water to be at the top, but it means we can hold it in a fixed position in the ultrasonic chamber, so that the resonant modes aren't shifting around, or the foil isn't shifting around in there, changing the position of the resonant modes. So we can actually see how the resonant modes in the water here are affecting the witness material, which is our aluminium foil. So I'm going to show you how to prepare that. So we've done the cutting, and we don't need all of this anymore, so that's all we need that for. And I'm going to set this up so you can see the preparation process. Now, actually what I've done here is I've actually cut, if you look, a hole here, and I've also cut a notch. Now, there may be better ways to do this, but this allows me to allow the water in and the air out when I'm putting it into the chamber, so that I can get a layer of water between here and the foil, and the water is obviously behind the foil. And I've got the shiny side of the foil up. You could use either side of it. I've actually done this about 2 or 3 times now, and it doesn't really matter. But if you are using the shiny side of the foil, do bear in mind that that will produce more specular when you look at it under high magnification. Okay, so essentially we just find a relatively smooth area that we want to use, and then just fold this around. And I'm going to try and bear in mind where my hole is here, so I don't block that. And it's a fairly simple process. Hopefully I can get it right whilst I'm talking at the same time. Okay, and you kind of want it so that you've got a relatively smooth area underneath, and that will be your target witness material area. Okay, so I'll squeeze in around the edge here. Now, we've got something for our air to come out here, but we need that little gap over somewhere around here. I had it somewhere, if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, I lost it. Yeah. It's over to the left here somewhere. Is it? Okay. Well, there are alternatives. Where did I put it? It was all going so well. Somewhere. I should have looked, really, shouldn't I? Okay, I found it. It's over here. So this is my little hole. And that's where I'm going to allow the water to come in. Okay. But essentially you want a fairly flat area. And we don't actually want to use or film on areas where we're going to get the maximum damage. It's kind of like in between the areas of most damage, which you get the most interesting effects going on. But anyway, so there it is. We've got our little area here. So we're going to try and fill the tank up. Now it has a maximum area. If we can have a look over there, can we see that? There's a little maximum level here. And I fill it a little bit below that. It actually has different resonances depending on how much water you put in. And I have done a study on that, and you can go and see that on the blog, which will be linked at the bottom of this video. And you can see how this experiment came about. So I'm going to pour the water in now. Okay. So if you let water settle for a little bit of time after pouring it out of the tap, it's better because you can then get rid of the excess air bubbles and it makes it nice and clear. Now this is actually the toughest part of the experiment, other than apparently finding the hole, which I put to put the water coming through. Now, the beauty of the innovation of this plastic is that it's just about the same diameter as the width in this particular ultrasonic tank. Now you might need to find something different that would work just as well, but what this means is I can push this in, and once it's in place it doesn't really move around backwards or forward, or even forwards or backwards, left or right. It doesn't move around, and that means that the resonant modes stay where they start for the most part. And typically I find that I get some heavy damage here and here, and so I want a fairly smooth area to look at over here, and have the camera trained at that. So I'm going to push this in now, and I can actually get this wrong, so maybe you'll see me get it wrong. So you see the water coming in there, so I kind of let it in like this, and then of course this is now air that's trapped. Now I could probably let the air out somewhere over here, but I don't want to damage it too much in terms of that's done that quite nicely. Actually, you just got one little air bubble down here. Okay, well, now you want to avoid getting water coming up here, and if you have a bit of tissue paper ready, you can avoid that. Now I've gone backwards. So, like I say, this can be the actual fiddly part of the process. Now, as I seem to have if you have a lot of bubbles, a big bubble over here, what can happen is the ultrasonics cause this to produce little bubbles, and they travel round and they obscure your camera's view. So I kind of really have to get rid of that. So let's see what I can do to do that. Is it going to come out of there? Like I say, this is the fiddly bit. Now, if I was being clever, I'd have like a little syringe, and I would squirt the water through a hole and fill this up with a drain point or something like that. So there's many innovations you can come up with. So it'd be interesting to see how different people approach this. Maybe I can get rid of the air through there. No. You know what? I might actually just run it like that. We'll see how it goes. I've got a big air bubble here, but the active area that I want to operate in over there looks okay. See if I can do a bit better than that. Ah, there we go. I see. I popped the water out, but now I've got I'm okay. I've got air over there now. Somehow that's got in there. I wasn't joking when I said this bit's fiddly. Probably there's about 50 different people out there going, he's not very bright, is he? You can do it like this. And this is where you can bring your ingenuity to the research. If I did it perfectly, it would be dull, wouldn't it? Okay, there we go. So I'm kind of happy with that, because I've got a nice area over here which is pretty flat. So if I show you that there, I can probably use this area over here as my target area. So I'm going to go and set that up where the camera is, and we will see what happens. So today I'm going to be using this Canon EOS 90D, and it has the ability to do 120 frames per second at 1080p and also even to do a little bit of 4K. So we're probably going to record this at the lower frame size at the higher frame rate, and then we can use an upscale function to post this to YouTube and not lose any data because of the YouTube compression algorithm. Anyway, so the good thing about this camera is it has this lens that Canon makes which fits it, and it's a EFS 35mm, and it's a really nice tight scale macro lens, and it has a built-in ring light, so you can actually point that at your sample and get it well illuminated, because often when you're using macro lenses that are able to go in very close, they don't have the ability to how should we put this, illuminate the sample, because they actually shadow the light around it, and so that solves that problem. So that's what we're going to be using. Okay, today I've got this attached to the leg of my computer desk with this UT-bit clamp, and I have this new Niwa macro rail here. So thank you to Bido for facilitating the purchase of those. And I've set you can set it for different times here. I've set it for 90 seconds here. Okay, before I kick this off, I'm going to use the macro rail here just to make sure it's in focus. I'm going to zoom in. So that's right in, and then I can just go up and down. Maybe you see that that's in focus or not. So that looks like it's nicely in focus, and I can move that around and just check other areas. And I actually have a piece of tissue paper hanging around just to mop up any water that might get up there. Okay, so we're there. I think we're good on that. And I'll set up the camera here, and hopefully the Canon does not turn off. Like so, and you can have a look at it. Whoa! Oh no, now I've moved it. Let's see if that's still in focus. It's not in focus. Okay. All right, so we will set this off and you will see what you see. First I need to press record. Now, in the area that I chose, it doesn't look to have done a lot, but you can see it's done quite a lot down here. But I'm going to show you on the screen what you can see there. So I'm actually going to move this to an area that's less damaged than here, but more damaged than the area that we're looking at, to see what we can find if we move that to that area. I'm going to find a more damaged area. Okay, here. So there is our more damaged area. You can see there if I zoom in on the camera, and I'm going to actually get that more in focus. Looks to be more in focus there. Maybe you can see that. Okay, now I'm going to set that off again a little bit longer. Another sort of minute 80, let's say. Let's do that. Kind of where we're meant to be looking. When I say a minute 80, I mean 180 seconds. Okay, that's done another 90 seconds. I'm going to switch this to recording at 4K so we can get a little bit more resolution.
Did you see it? What did you see? Tell me what you saw. What did you think you saw? Well, I tried to highlight with my mouse. I tried to give you a hint as to it being these ones up here. Metallic popcorn. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and maybe we can get the one that I want to show you. Where? He hopes. Why is it not going up there? Okay. Maybe if I just show you the ones I want to show you and you can tell me if you can see what I'm trying to get across. Hopefully this will do it. Maybe that's too much in. Maybe I'll come out a little bit. I need to give you some lead-in room. Now, one thing you'll notice is that if the foil isn't moving around, these structures don't move either. They say exactly where they are. What I want you to look at is that you have these vortices in here. Okay? And then watch what happens when pieces of aluminium foil come into play. Axel, once we've done the live microscope test, which I've never done before, you're going to see it for the first time as I see it, which is on this camera over here. So you can see we've got the device here and there's the camera, and you can actually see what I'm looking at with the microscope there. We're going to try that. But what we're looking at here is these figure of eights, these soliton structures, and I'm going to play this. Maybe you can see, maybe if I can, shall I slow it down? I'll just play it as at full rate. Well done, Artifact! Yes! It's eating them! It's eating them, and it doesn't damage the structures at all! Once the structures are formed, they get the vortice in there, and things flow towards it, and it's just amazing! It's what I imagined in my head in 2017 when I started seeing these ring structures, but seeing it 3 hours ago. It was just mind-boggling. Just absolutely mind-boggling. I'll play it again. It's just incredible. This, honestly, is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. I've seen some really cool things. You have very large chunks of aluminium are coming and getting sucked into the vortex. And it is a vortex. We've seen the vortex on the synthesized elements into the point, which ends up being diamond, or on one side, or it ends up being lead. Now, I will show examples of lead in the future because it's the heaviest element, but you get lead on one side, carbon on the other, calcium on one side, carbon on the other. You remember seeing that original sphere from the first time I saw something that got me, oh my god, what's going on here? It seems to be moving material from one side to the other, where you had those Pac-Men with the little eyes, and on one side in the Nova reactor, you had a sphere on one side of pure carbon. It's the most amazing thing I have seen in science in my entire life. I was literally, Kim is not wrong, I was bouncing off the walls. I didn't care about anything. I'm sorry, I would have loved to have had that, but I had to get back and try and share this with people because it blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. I'm going to play it again, that little clip. And then what we're going to try and do is use this microscope, and you guys who are watching this will be the first people to see this like this ever, including me. I don't know what I'm going to see, but I suspect it's going to be something similar to what you can see here. So I'm gonna focus. These two are interesting ones. So I'm going to bring those in so you can see the particles or the chunks of aluminium coming in a little bit clearer from a far field. Okay, so there's a couple of questions. So there are some chunks of aluminium coming from somewhere else where it's more dynamic and they're being torn off the sheet. So this is what I'm saying is the interesting area. So if you go to the thing over here, these are the areas, oh, if I put my finger in, this area over here is where the most of the damage occurs. Now I'm interested in this area here where it's not quite so intense, the effect. Okay, so let's go back. Honestly, this is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen for me, because I like this sort of thing. But this is a science experiment that can be conducted in a 30-minute class with children in primary school. And it's just absolutely amazing. And it shows exactly what's going on in my opinion, in every single over-unity technology there has ever been. And this is the keys to the kingdom, and you're seeing it real time. It's an analog, but we know from the work of Tom Claytor trying to replicate Roger Stringham presented in 2018 or 17 or whenever it was, 18, that it's the thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Okay, I'll let my laptop cool a bit. We know, and if you go and look at the paper that I looked at 2 days ago by Tom Claytor and Roger Stringham, they were synthesizing thallium and thorium. Thallium and thorium. They were also synthesizing a wide range of lighter elements. This is about as much as you can say nuclear transmutation. It's up and down and everything in between. And this is ubiquitous. This will be occurring on the shores with waves crashing on rocks. This will be occurring in stones as water and a fast flowing stream goes around it. This will be occurring as the superheated water comes up in hydrothermal vents. Fresh monoatomics will be synthesized. It's absolutely breathtaking. And it's able to be done in a classroom for about $40. It's amazing. Anyway, I was off the wall today. So let's see if you've got any questions, and then we'll run it again. And then we're going to see what we see in this one over here, this microscope. I don't know what to expect, but we'll see what we see. Okay. So there's many things that you can do. This is literally a blue ocean of experimental things that you can do. You can start with putting some food coloring in there and having a camera below the foil. See what happens. Put the food coloring above and see what happens. Is the food coloring coming out? Does it come out in a big spiral? Does it come out and go into a loop? That's just one thing you can do. You can start putting actual food for these things in there. Little bits of polystyrene that kind of float. Is the polystyrene going to be torn up? Is it going to be sucked in and just sit there spinning? There's so many things you can do to explore this. It's just mind-boggling. If it disappears, what happens to the matter? Given the fact that we know that this technology can literally atomize material, this is what Ken Shoulders said. That is what I believe it will be doing. It will be atomizing it. But if you drive it to coherence more and more, then I believe it can synthesize elements. And it's not just a belief. We have it working in a maser, which works at 179 hertz. There's high frequency in there. We determined that on our first day with an ultrasonic mic. Two different types, a hydrophone and the ultrasonic mic, 384 kilohertz. We determined that within the first day. We knew that even when it's just doing 179 hertz, it's producing ultrasonic frequencies. And then looking at it, we saw the cavitation spots. But I think we are seeing for the first time something which is not how cavitation is traditionally thought of. It's not how cavitation is traditionally thought of. The frequency here is 43 kilohertz. You can imagine that if you were using a higher frequency, the structures would be much smaller and more regular. And so they would have, and there's several different structures. You get like you can see one on the page here, the mouse. You get the kind of 3 and the 2. It tends to be 3 or 2. And then you can get little chains of them. But once they're set up, that's where the action goes, and it's almost like there's a whole field of nothing going on, and these are the resonant nodes. But it is not just a bubble on its own doing its collapsing. It is this structure, this figure of 8 structure, which we're going to see in much more detail today. Atomizing, I mean turning it into very, very, very small bits. But it could actually, if you are transmuting elements, which we have seen in maser vibrator systems, then you are you know it's doing more than just atomizing it. I believe that in these structures, structures here, you are getting coherent matter. And why do I say that? Well, go and look at the videos that I shared in the remoteview.icu, the videos of the strange radiation tracks. Most of the observed types of strange radiation track I observed on the maser vibrator plates. And now we can see what they look like in the Vega reactors. So we know the kind of shape and structure of them that forms it. Go and look at my commentary when I'm actually looking and observing those things under polarized light. Way back in, whenever it was, 2019, all the way back then. You are seeing, in my view, and if you go and look, you will see these kind of semi-yin-yang structures. And when I was looking at it, I was going, this isn't just bubble collapsing to a point. There's something more important going on. And when I looked at the SEM and saw the vortex structure with the thing over the other side, and it's like this heart-shaped thing that gets produced, and it's slightly offset, I knew that it isn't just a simple matter of a bubble. And when you look at some of the other videos I've shared, and when I publish these, you will see that these bubbles don't immediately form. Sometimes you just get one side and the other side comes on a little bit later, and they form and they settle down. It might take... I've got a 120 frame per second 1080p video that I'm going to publish hopefully tonight, and I will stretch that out 4 times to 30 frames a second, and then even slower. But we might actually look at that tonight. I've not even had time to look at it because it's 120 frames a second. It's not so easy to play here. However, you know, what you're seeing here for me is it blew my mind. So I'm gonna play it again, and then we'll try seeing if we can see the same thing using the microscope live. Now the frame rate on the microscope's not so good, so we don't know what we're going to see, but we're going to see it close. Okay, I'm not getting, my frame rate is just simply not going. So I'm gonna find a suitable piece of aluminium coming in here, and we're going to I'm going to step forward. Right, it really is taking time. That one didn't make it. It flew out. No, it's come back. It's not sure where to go. Okay, that one went. So some of them go in, spin around, bits get chopped off and they fly away, but some get eaten like that one. Whoa, I lost it. I'm at the end there now. Oh dear. That is in fact my laptop shutting down. It's overheated completely and it's just turned off. Okay, that's depressing. It's literally turned the computer off. Oh, there we go. That's my laptop not functioning. Okay, I guess we're going to run the other experiment then, aren't we? Yeah, it's... Oh, it might be the laptop power. Yes, because I pulled it out, didn't I? Well done. Less serious. That might be why it was a bit jerky. Maybe we can try it within. Well, I think it's because it's 4K and it's a bit intense for it. So let's see if we can get that back. Okay, I think that's probably a good segue to let's see if we can actually see something on here. So let me just move this into position. Ooh. No, see that's broken there. That's the aluminium broken. So you can see how it breaks it. I'm getting my movements all wrong here. Right, that's I think what we'll do there. And we're gonna run this for 180 seconds. And this has never been seen before, ever, even by me. So you're all gonna get to see this for the first time at the same time. Now, don't know why this microscope is currently coming through a hub, and I think that the blips on there is because the hub is getting pulled by some other device and it's losing a frame. Okay, let's see if we see anything. I'm just going to hit on and we'll see what we see. You're seeing this, like me, for the first time. I might move the microscope just to see if I can... Oh, there we go. We're more in focus now. There appears now to be a little slit hole in the top center one. What happened there? Maybe. It's not from there. One of the things I'm going to look to have a. I'm going to have a look. So we don't seem to have any vortices at this point here at the moment. So I'm going to look at a different area. So we'll oh, hold on. There's a little bit of a vortex there, but we seem to have lost the intense vortex in that top center one. Okay, so that's stopped. And we will move this to look at a different area. There's a bit of air bubbles there. That isn't flashes, obviously. That's the USB failing. So I don't know how I don't have a spare. I'm out of USB ports. Oh, I could use that one maybe. I could use that one because my laptop isn't currently functioning. Oh, I could use that one. Okay, I'm gonna switch USB ports because my laptop's not functioning at the moment. Hopefully we will not have such a flashing thing going on. Let's see if that re-recognises that. Will it re-recognise it? No, it's not re-recognised it. It's not very helpful, is it? I've switched ports right now. And what has it done? Oh, it's actually frozen everything. Oh, no, it's done that. Okay, all right. Now I've completely lost it. Let me get a USB power lead. Is that back in the room? I've lost the black magic. I lost my ugly mugshot. Okay. All right. So I'm going to see if I can get this onto another USB so that it doesn't flicker like that. And I need a USB 3 lead, a long one. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. do have one, but it's attached to another computer. Not helpful. Okay, well, it was better than nothing. I think we'll go back to what that was. Unless I can move that round there. I can move that round there, can't I? I think. Yes, I can move that round there. So we're going to lose my mugshot again. It's probably not a bad thing. You go round. Oh no. Oh no, it's all the way up there. Okay. Can you see or hear me? Are you bored? Right. Let me, firstly, okay. So I've got me back, and we just need to get the camera for the microscope back. Not that one. Okay, that is not working. Okay, let me see if that's... Okay, we're back in the room, and I'm on a direct USB, so this could show something else, and we'll look at a few holes as we do this. So I'm going to set another 90 seconds here, and away we go. What do we see? That one in the bottom right's quite lively. You see how it looks like it's only on one side. Something happened there, something came in. It's getting really pumped, that one. Oh! Yeah, that's the amazing thing. Why aren't the holes getting any bigger? I mean, sometimes they do initially when you put stuff in there to start with. They do get a little bit bigger, and what happens is sometimes when a bit is broken off and it changes the overall resonant pattern. Oh, it's getting eaten! Oh no, it just stopped then. I ran out. Look at the size of that bit though. Let's see if we can kick it off with that there. Oh no, it just didn't, that last bit didn't get eaten. But you see the size of the piece of aluminium, it's incredible. Right, I'm going to give this a little bit longer. Let's put it on 180, yeah? Maybe the dark one is spewing matter out. Yes, I mean, in the work of Matsumoto, he shows this to be a wormhole joining the one and the other. Not looking at it like this, but yeah. So there's kind of like a black hole and a white hole, and material goes in one and it comes out the other through a wormhole, and it gets mostly turned to carbon based on his understanding, his observations. Look at how the speed of that spinning. You can imagine. Now, why did I start off my presentation by saying, you know, hello kids, and this is how you do a quantum coherent torsion field reactor? The Russians have shown since Soviet times that they can create torsion fields. Go and look for papers on torsion fields. Go and look at the things that they used, these conical shaped structures, to create torsion fields. And if you look at Shishkin's cavitator rotates at 5,000 RPM. Most of his things that created strange radiation birdies were metals that were on a motor that rotated at 20,000 RPM. You can imagine that this is spinning round at 20,000 RPM. Why? Because it's being pumped by 43 kilohertz. So it's being excited, you know, 43,000 times a second. So could it be spinning at 20,000 times a second? If it is, then that has the potential to create extremely high torsion fields. I'm going to say something right now. The torsion fields, in my view, are interacting with the coherent, universe-wide condensate of cold neutrinos. And the exotic vacuum objects that we've seen in the Vega reactor, they are creating a beam of torsion through this superfluid medium in front of them. And that is interacting because they are neutrinos. They can interact and share energy with positrons and electrons that are coming into instantation. And that this causes those positrons and electrons that come to in and out of the quantum foam to spin round the torsion field. This creates a magnetic beam. And that is why when you saw the overall discharge in the Vega reactor and you saw our EVO coming round, the ones coming out had no choice but to interact with it. And even after it went past with it, they're still interacting with it. And that is why the previous set of videos, where I showed them interacting, even before they arrived, they're interacting because they are sending, I called it a magnetic beam. And it is kind of like a magnetic beam. It's an extremely highly focused torsion beam that spins the superfluid condensate in front of it, and that interacts with the electrons and positrons that are coming out in the quantum foam, and that creates an intense magnetic beam in front of it, like a spike. And that is like a spike technology to do hypersonic aircraft. And what that then does is any EVO that's coming in from the side, its own intense magnetic field has no choice but interact with this incredibly intense field. This is, in my view, a torsion technology. It is low energy nuclear reactions. It completely relies on quantum coherence. I'll play it again and we'll look at a different area. Why not? We're running out of aluminium, so I might put a fresh piece on there. It's getting a bit messy in there. Let's find a area here. Now these are probably bubbles here. Let's see what happens when I crank that up. I think they're bubbles, but they look interesting. And we'll also try some different polarizations, and then we'll take out the sample and look at it under the microscope when it's dried off. Let's just see if I can get a better focus on that. Ooh, what are they? What have we got here? What are they? I have no idea what they are. What are they? Oh dear. The aliens have landed on the aluminium foil. I think it's a bubble within a bubble. How cool is that? How cool is that? I think we've got a bubble within a bubble. Right, I'm going to try some polarization on that before we crank up the speed there. Oh, now the microscope's turned off. Damn it. Why has it done that? Hold on. I'm not using this through the microscope software, so it's a little bit temperamental. I'm just using it effectively as a video source. What is that? What are we even looking at there? Are these the structures that we saw producing ultra-dense hydrogen crystals on Amaza vibrator plates? You know, they have a ring inside and then a larger field on the outside when they break down. I don't know. Let's look at the polarizer. I don't know whether the water is affecting the ability to polarize. What do you say? Should we crank on the ultrasonics and see what happens to these little beauties? I don't even know what I'm looking at. Aluminium. Oh, you can't spell Corky, I'm sorry. No, I joke. Aluminium, yes. Right, let me see what happens to these little funny things when I hit the power. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, they're gone. Whatever they were, they went. Okay, I'll stop that and we'll go and find something a little bit less boring to look at. Well, there's a single pit. Should we see what a single pit does? Let's see what a single pit does. And I'm just changing the polarization to get the best look at this. Now, there's some bubbles in the foreground and this is why you don't want the bubbles in there, by the way, but you can't avoid it after a while. Let's see what happens when we give this a bit of love. The old sound love. Anything happening? Not a lot. Yeah, not a lot. Oh, look, something just came and spent a bit of time sitting in the peak, if that's a peak. Or a trough. Probably a trough. No, I'm not feeling it with that one. I'm not feeling it with it. It's better if you get the pairs. The pairs are where the action are. So let's go and find some pairs. Let's have a look at these. Now it's getting a bit messy. So what I might do is go and get some fresh aluminium. Oh, let's have a look at this one. We've got a whole cluster here. Let's see what's going on down here. Let's see what these little beauties do. Let's see what they do. I'll rotate that around so I can get. Whoa. Okay. Let's see what this group does. And I'll move this one. so it's not in the way, okay? I mean, not in the way in the same way, if you know what I mean. I'll put it behind. There you go. So you can still see some of the action, the timing. Okay, ready? Let's give this some of the old vibes. Oh, yeah! Oh, come on! Yeah, baby! She's cracking up on the top right there. Oh my god, look at this. It's just stunning. We've got a whole tear down on the top right there. Oh, this is just beautiful. Oh, it's just beautiful. Wow. Oh my. Wow. You can see that it's like a spin within a spin. And if you imagine that structure, it would explain the structure that we saw. It's just coming out of focus a little bit. I'm going to move it to try and get it in focus. No, that's gone out of focus again. Oh, it's pretty dynamic, this. It's going up and down a bit. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a little bit down towards the left because the damage area above is getting in the way. And I'm going to try looking at it with a slightly different polarization. This is not straight cavitation. This is definitely some vortexy loving going on here. Oh, it's going to break up! It broke up! Okay. I think the thing that looks a bit like smoke is actually it's bubbles in the foreground, and this is why you need to kind of do a new experiment after a while. Yes, it could be node and antinode of an ultrasonic wave, but in whatever case, this is happening in spin, and I think they're counter-rotating, and this happens in all LENR systems that I've looked at, you find these things, and it is where these structures occur, these pairs, that you see the transmutation. Yeah, okay, I can try and do that. BP. Now, this is what you're seeing here is quite typical. I shared an image for the title slide of this. Is the one that seems to be consuming the matter gets this kind of a, or it has the strongest vortex, tends to get this kind of like white rim on it. Okay, we'll do one more area, and then what I'll do is I'll take this off, and then we'll look at it under the microscope with the polarizing filter after it's dried off a little, because otherwise we're not going to actually have much aluminium left. If I show you what's left, not a lot is the answer. There's hardly any aluminium left, aluminum for those in America, to actually play with right now. I'm running out of playfield. Or maybe I'll put a fresh piece of aluminium on and we can watch them initially form. This is at 200 times magnification, I believe. Yeah, we're on 220 roughly magnification here. I'll come back to 50 times magnification, and we'll see where areas are just starting to form. We'll stop it with a fresh piece of aluminium, and we'll then go and zoom in on some early birds and see if we can catch them doing something interesting. Okay, so let me just do that and see if we get anything interesting out of this one. Yeah, not so interesting on this. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. Oh, it's getting up there now. Okay, so there we have it. I'm going to put a fresh piece of aluminium there, and we will try and catch some early ones with some fresh water as well. Okay, all right. So give me a sec to set that up. We've lost my other screen there. Let me just put that on. Anyway, we didn't have any flickering with this new setup, so just give me a second and I will put some fresh aluminum on and change the water. Just to let you know, that's what's left. So it's a few fractions of a cent for a large amount of experimental experience. It's all clean. Okay, didn't take long, so that's our new one, and I'm just going to place it in after I've washed it out. It reads down. The water in now, and I'm just a bit shy. I'm going to do a bit more. Always useful to have a tap in your lab. Okay. See if I can make a less bad job of this than I did on the last one. Don't give myself a lot of achieving it. We'll see. Oh, baby! I think that'll do. There we go. There's a danger of me getting better at this as I do it more. Okay. So I'm going to switch this so that I am looking at 50 times rather than 200, so we can see a bigger field of view. First. Oh no, it's turned itself off again. The only problem with this dynamite, it's quite sensitive to the USB. Ah! Big spark! Static in the air. Why is there static in the air? Come on. Okay. Okay, yes, we're back on. Right, let's get that in shot. Now normally we're going to have a lot of activity over here, so let's look at that bit there somewhere. Okay. Let's start with something like that. What are we on? What's our magnification? Something like 50, something like that. Anyway, I'll go to a fresh piece of aluminium somewhere. There we go. It's nice and clean. Okay, so we've got a 50 times magnification here, and I am going to go on. Okay, this is a pretty active area here, so I'm just going to stop this. Okay, so we can see it's put a whole series in there, and I think we'll go in and look at, have a look at the, and then let's go and have a look at that group down there. It's a little bit active, this area, so we might lose this quite quickly. I'm going to go a little bit on the periphery over here, and let's zoom in. So we go. Are we having fun yet? Oh, that's not quite going to do it. Yeah. What's happening? It's not working. Oh, what's wrong? Find an area. Okay. Now this is an area that's obviously, it's been very aggressive. Interesting. Now, before I go anywhere, I'm just going to play with the polarizer here because we've got nice and clear. It doesn't. Okay, the polarizer just makes it go green in water. Green or okay. All right, it's not so helpful. Okay, all right. This is going to break up very quickly, I believe, when I hit this. Okay, so I'm going to chase the boundary, I think. And find areas which are less affected. Find an area. Oh, there's a... Lovely little paisley over there. Find an area that has interesting holes on it. Some areas are just not affected. See what this little one does. I'm going to get a laser pointer and just point it at it. Dangerously bright, these green laser pointers. That's red. I've got a red, green and ultraviolet one. Let's try the green one. It's so bright. Let's see. Well, that's interesting. You can see which is up and down. I'm going to try blue. I can? Why is it not saying that? Oh, that was pretty. What happened at the end there? I'll do that again. So this is blue laser light that I'm pointing at it, and depending on the angle I'm getting different colours, which is a bit weird. It's blue. It might be changing its white balance and I can't control it on this one, so I'm going to try it with some red, see what happens with the red. Can't seem to get the red in there. It doesn't seem to be. Why is the red not able to illuminate it? Oh, I know what. I've got it covered up. That's why. Try this. It'll be a bit better. Gives you a better idea of the topology, doesn't it, as I move that around. Okay, I'll go back to the red, no, green. Go back to the green if that's still working. When I get there. So you've caught on to the fact of the pyramids. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Are we going to see that? Is that really a diffraction? What's going? Oh, that might be the polarizing filter. No. Yeah, it might be the polarizing filter. Okay, I don't see a lot of action there at the moment. No. It's not as live as it was. Let's go and find another spot. This looks more live. Let's see if that one does anything. Oh yeah, we've got some action going on with that one. Some good action. Okay, I think you get the general idea now. I hope so. It's a nice one, nice couple there. Let's see what they do. And then we'll look at it on the microscope. Yeah, it's not a very lively one. Oh, it's getting going. It's warming up. You can definitely see one is a pit and one is raised. Not a lot going on. Okay, all right. I've had enough of those. Okay, so I'm going to plug in the other device, which allows me to show you the other screen, and I will do that here because I want to show you something. that's come up. Is it going to allow me to do that? Okay. All right. So my Mac has recovered, I hope. Took a bit of time. Okay, so have you got any questions? I should go soon, but Bob, won't the laser be releasing some SR quanta if you use it like that? Maybe. Don't know. Possibly. Quite likely. Okay. Okay, it's interesting because of your last couple of comments there. And you will see why in a few seconds. Okay, I don't know which way to take this. I need to take this off here. I'm going to be able to show you some of this. It needs to dry out a bit. And we need to get it on the microscope. There's not much left of this one either. I don't know which bit we can use. Maybe this bit. Mess there. Okay. Put that on the microscope. Lost it again, that's not very helpful. I can put it in here for this. Okay. Okay, so what did I want to show you? I have a SD card, which is in. Okay, this is the sample I looked at the other day, and I can show this whilst I am playing, getting the last slide that I want to share with you together. So I've got various different levels of, how should we put this? Polarization on this at different times. And the microscope doesn't allow me to change the lighting, so I'm going to put it into the proper software now in the background whilst that is playing. Yeah, we were waiting for you, Corky. You see what happens there when I change the polarization? Get a very different look at it. And you see the stress lines on these structures that you can't see when you just look at it with the eye. It does look like there's waves in these pictures, definitely. And you can actually see the dark going round and round. This is the actual picture I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. So as I change with the polarization on this, you can see that it definitely has a left and right, and up here it has a right and left. And then down here it has a right and left. So the original structure, and I'm zooming this around so that I can get more onto frame. And you've got a standard sort of figure of 8 over here. And this is what polarization reveals, where you just simply can't see it normally. And this is where you would have the spinning going on, round and round and round and round and round and round and round. I'm trying to change. Yeah. Look at that. Lovely kind of yin-yang structure. This structure here is extremely similar to the one that, if you go and look at the Amasa vibrator plate videos I did way back when. And I'll change with the polarization on here. You can see the difference that the polarization makes. You see here? Now, there's much more going on here. It's a big blue ocean of opportunity. Don't know whether a vortex would exist the other side. It's a good question. Okay, I'm just looking with the other microscope at the moment, and I'm measuring some features here. So I will endeavour to get you a shot. It's just it glitches terribly when I've got it plugged into the hub. Really, it needs to be on the main USB connection. Look at that beautiful figure of 8. Maybe I'll yeah, I think there's definitely, well, we know there's interaction between these vortex structures, and that's one thing that I argued earlier on. Sorry, it's a bit wibbly wobbly. I had this not on the translation table, I had it on a piece of spongy foam. But look at that, it's beautiful, beautiful. And on this bottom right one, you can see a little bit of a hexagonal outside. Definitely a kind of vortex feature. This is from ultrafoil, yeah. It's from ultrafoil. In fact, the one that I'm looking at there is this ultrafoil. It's from a previous experiment I did, this one here. It was on this bit of sponge and I was moving it around, that's why it wobblesy. So I think I'm getting to the point where I just want to close out with two really special comments. So those that have got this far, congratulations, because you've got a real treat for you in a few minutes. That one you can actually see almost a little bit of a linkage between the one that has a hole and the one that doesn't. The hole tends to be, as far as I'm aware, the pit, and this is the raised bit, but you can almost see that link between them. Some of them have these kind of like torsion areas, and some of them are apple shaped, and this is more the sort of heart, so you can see there's a line through the middle. It's almost like it's going in a different orientation. Camillo, you're absolutely right, and I think what the reality is someone said cavitation works like this, and no one bothered to look. I mean, look at this. Look at this structure. This is one on my title slide for this presentation. If I can get it into view, maybe. There it was. I'm desperately trying to find it again. Sorry. So I'm just measuring the features on the microscope in a different way here. So I'm just going to tell you. And maybe someone can work out from 46 kilohertz what it should be, 43 kilohertz rather. What any particular structure should be scaled if it's just purely based on the sound. Okay, I think we're back to the beginning there. So I think I probably want to do my closeout on this live microscope session. Before I do that, I'll just go and show you what I'm actually doing right now. If I can, let me see if I can add a window to this frame. Let me see if I can do that. Add display capture. No, cancel. Add window capture. Yes. Okay. Can you see what I've got there? This is the scale on the microscope, roughly. I'm not doing this totally super duper precisely. Give you an idea. And look how black that is. I mean, is that carbon there? Have we got carbon? Do you think? What do you think? Do you think there's some carbon there? I mean, aluminum oxide is not normally black. So the radius is 0.1 of a millimeter for the two spots there. Nice clean one in this instance. Is it depositing a whole load of carbon there? It's just ripping that matter apart, ripping those aluminium atoms apart. So it will be interesting to get this under the SEM, like one of these, and just see if that is actually carbon there and there. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, I'm just going to prepare another image for you. Two images. .75 centimeters. So it's obviously some sort of harmonic, or is it just something that the EVOs like to structure themselves at? Is there a cheap spectrometer? Well, there is a spectrometer, which I've done several videos on, and I have some large blackout stuff, and if you go look at the channel, and it's called the USB Viz 1000. You can get it on eBay for $399 delivered in the US. If you're looking for an optical spectrometer. If you're looking for something else, then the cost varies. So give me a second and I will have something useful for you to look at. And then I should probably go because it's gone midnight and I'm really pushing it now. Oh, sorry about that, it's really loud. So I've got a whole bunch of stills here. We'll have a look at those first. These are of what you've just seen, but stills. Okay. So on this one here, you can see the vortex nature here coming in to this trough and this hole. And the hole always tends to be kind of like a little slit for much of its life. And then this is coming down here, and this is almost this heart shape. You can see it's slightly off-centered here, and then it's got the other one the other side. But this is, in my understanding, coming up. This is going down. You've got the vortice going round this way, and presumably the vortice on that side goes round that way. And so, kind of like, does it go round here or through there and then come back up through there or round there? I don't know. Is it going? I call it the pretzel. And so this is the structure that really I was, in my view, talking about, that I've seen in so many different Lena technologies. And so that's that. I've got a whole bunch of them here. And the good thing is that because the aluminum has these straight lines, because of the way it's made, it allows you to see the flow of how things have been manipulated. And you can see here this kind of pinching effect over there, and this kind of more like a teardrop effect here. And that's just by changing the polarization there. Oh, no, there we go, polarization. This is the one I was referring to earlier, and I took lots of images of this at different scales and positions. So under this area, you can see it's very black. There's this area where you would expect the spinning to go on. This is a raised area. And then it has this kind of snake that goes up here, and then the reverse snake. And if you go in and change the polarization of that, you see this side has a hole. And I think this side has a hole. So this is almost like a helix. Now, was it the same structure and then it just moved up and it kind of like spun round as it moved up? I don't know, but there's going to be so much for people to investigate with this extremely simple experiment. And so that's with the polarization completely changed. You see, you get a lot of specular off here. And you get this, again, this kind of apple shape going on, which you could imagine is a vortex on its side. And is this a series of vortices? How do you say that? Vortexes. This is the one I looked at earlier with this kind of like almost a yin-yang typey shape. And again, that one, but if I change the polarization on that, maybe, there we go. So change the polarization. Oh. I change it even more there. Here's a whole group of ones which kind of like, they almost look like they've got a core and then like a funnel coming out either side. You see this one particularly where I have my mouse. There we go. So I've changed the illumination, the specularity there. So it's even, so it's almost like there's something going round in a loop here, and it's pulling stuff in to the center and throwing it out of the top. So is it, in this case, have we got a vortex going around this way? Vortex going around this way? Again, this is maybe a different angle on that one we showed earlier, or it's a different one. I think it's a different one. So you can see the polarization there. Even when I change the polarization completely off, you still get this dark area here. So is this spinning round? Is it raised here and spinning round here? But it has this outer area. Is there something spinning in the opposite direction on the outside? I love these very crisp figure of eights with these. This kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This got a hexagon, very good signature of a vortex structure. And that's just a far shot. Okay, I'll switch back to my mug shot and see if I got the other images I wanted. Okay. Really didn't like being shut down, my computer. Okay, I want to show you this video. So in my question and answer at ICCF 22, oh, that's an advert, sorry about that. In ICCF 22, I was asked, you know, how is it that the Parkhomov's reactor kept on working even after the nickel had melted? You know, isn't the temperature too high and so forth? And what I'm referring to here, if I go to it here maybe, and I get rid of this image here. Okay, so this is the ICCF 22, and I said that the active agent is synthesized as the nickel is in the lower temperature regions, and I'm going to hypothesize that what's happening is the peaks and the troughs, and possibly the troughs are more important in this carbonyl nickel, create spin vortices like you've seen in a range of systems at the beginning of this presentation, but live on camera today. But rather than water spinning around in there, you have a mixture of hydrogen and electrons. And in the case of the experiment Lion, you have diamonds. Diamonds are the world's greatest emitters, especially if they're crummy industrial diamonds. And they will have peaks, kind of like pyramids. If you go and look at the research of the torsion researchers from the Soviet era, they used these pyramid-shaped cones. If you go and look at the strange radiation, these birdie generators of Alexander Shishkin and his group at Dubna, they are these cones, and they make them out of all kinds of metals and plastic. And these produce these quanta of strange radiation. And I believe that's because they are able to create torsion fields and help produce these magnetic pseudo-monopoles. And so what I'm saying is that the EVOs, or the material that spins around in the gaps in this carbonyl nickel, creates an intense torsion vortex which is able to capture anything available to it. And it gets to a certain point where it's able to unify the forces if you get them aggregated. So in the case of Alexander Parkhomov's nickel hydrogen only, there's no lithium in there, no aluminium, just nickel and hydrogen. And in the case of the nickel, hydrogen and carbon, i.e. industrial and diamond abrasives and nickel in the line reactor, as you're going up in the temperature, you are creating these exotic vacuum objects, and they will aggregate, and they will then be in the metals. And so after the metals are melted, it's almost irrelevant. All you need to do is keep feeding it any boson and matter. So in the case of the ultra experiments, you're feeding it bosons of sound. You could feed it bosons of light in the form of IR radiation. You could feed it some sort of oscillations of any type. So if you had some, for instance, in the line reactor, there was a 40-something kilohertz ripple on the power supply. So that would be causing, with the coil, maybe even higher frequency oscillations. And this could help feed the production of the exotic vacuum objects. But once they're formed, they stay in the metals, and you can just reinvigorate them by anything that slightly changes the morphology of the material, even though it's molten. And so that can be sound, and it can be heat, which turns into phonons, in IR phonons, or they're all shaking. And so that would feed the active agent. And so that's one thing. These particular structures are necessary to create the active agent, but they don't need to be there later on. And so I said at some point I would explain in more detail how I saw that happening, and this is that. This is the same presentation where I revealed for the first time the absolutely beautiful pretzel, as I call it. In fact, I called it pretzel. Look, pretzel top, pretzel bottom. And I think this is the key spin vortex structure pair. And I have some extremely special imagery to show you from, well, one in particular from a Mars gas. So when I say that a Mars gas, and very likely Brown's gas, is literally Lena in a can, I think you can be safe in knowing that that is the case. And when the thing about Mars, we know that it's producing strange radiation, which means it can aggregate hydrogen and capture it, atomic hydrogen, but effectively it's literally capturing these exotic vacuum objects in a gas form, and when you burn it, you're doing the re-exciting, and as soon as it touches the metal, it's interacting with the metal. And the other way that you need to make them work is to feed them electrons. Now, in the case of Suhas Ralkar with the Echo reactor, he was accidentally and without intention putting the exotic vacuum. I've said this 3 years ago in what really is new fire fuel, or Lena fuel. He was accidentally putting the active agent into his fuel by trying to process the fuel to make the smaller grains. He was filling it with these tori structure that are able, in my view, to create torsion fields very, very locally. So what he said is if he puts it in the reactor and he doesn't get the spacing, I think it was 22 millimeters or something, if he doesn't get the spacing between the anode and cathode right, and he gets an arc discharge, it blows up. And why is that? Well, firstly, he had to have a corona discharge for it to work. If he didn't and he got an arc, it would blow up. The reason is because in those structures, I believe there is a vast amount of coherent matter. And if you use a spark, an arc, then this will cause the coherent matter to produce an EMP and a very explosive event, as the structures are intentionally blown up, as Ken Shoulders would say. So in the Echo reactor, you had to have a corona discharge. You just want to feed it electrons, and then it can go about its merry way, interacting with the matter and converting it into energy. Tesla blew up his power station. Chernetsky blew up his power station. John Hutcheson lost a big transformer, as I understand it. I believe that each of these events are similar to the event that I witnessed in Suhas Ralkar's lab with his plasma flow discharge. When he was running it for a certain amount of time, and then after a while there would be this incredible flash. You can go and see it on the Steemit. I call it brilliant light shower. And what I believe is happening there is a aggregation of what Ken Shoulders would call fluidized electrons, but it's a macro conglomeration of exotic vacuum objects, and one spark dishevels it and you get an EMP, and it was knocking out his large industrial three-phase power supply. Okay, so this is a risk with this technology, and from my very first presentation in 2017 in India, I said you need to make and break. You need to make and break. Or you make and then you drain. And I talked about how you could work with these structures so that you could have energy. But if you push it too hard and you don't have your setup, your reactor right, sooner or later it will eat the apparatus. Or you'll get an EMP. It's just unavoidable. You might have an operating technology working for an extremely long time, and then suddenly it goes boom, and things in the environment stop functioning, predominantly electrical things, because of the scalar and EMP that comes out. And so if you're dealing with radioactive waste, this is fine, because you're just trying to, you just feed it a lot and you don't get it too big, and you're only trying to dispose of really nasty stuff, and you don't care if you're continually blowing up. You make and break, make and break, make and break. When I was in Sochi in October 2018, Alexander Shishkin said something very, very important. He says, one, a couple of things, and there's something that I will say at a different time that's very relevant. He said, torsion fields are quite easy to generate. If they're a big torsion field, they will stay almost indefinitely in an environment, because they are relatively locked, and they are not interacting material that generally interacts with gases and stuff. And he says that's not good for humans, okay, to have big torsion fields. He said this, and this is very, very important to what I've just been talking about. He said the only way to get rid of a torsion field, if you, for instance, you've had a very intensely spinning metal body, for instance, in an environment, and you've created a torsion field in the environment. He says the only way you can get rid of the torsion field is to have a very high dIdt discharge, basically a large spark, and that breaks the torsion field up. This is exactly what I'm saying will have occurred with Tesla, with Chernetsky, with John Hutcheson, and what I experienced with Suhas Ralkar, and why Suhas Ralkar reactor would blow up, because he's got the torsion fields in there, but also he's blowing up the things that are able to create them. There's some thoughts. When you extend that thinking out, you can understand how structures like the pyramid, if we're going to build a structure to create a torsion field, the Russians, as I said, used a cone, but in engineering terms it's very difficult to create a cone, so you would create a pyramid. And actually diamonds are octahedrons. They're basically a pyramid with a pyramid on the bottom, is one type of crystal structure there. And so This is, in my view, why diamonds are extremely good at creating the structures necessary. And so, armed with this thinking and what I've shown in this presentation today, it should be relatively trivial for people to understand and come up with new embodiments for doing the low-energy nuclear reaction process. And then I just want to share one thing. I don't know if you, this is my closeout. And when I was looking at this sample, which I call the Hutcheson fracture in here, if I can find it, this one here, this is the Hutcheson fracture sample. This is the sample that gave me the relative different quantizations of EVOs and also showed how they fitted together to make a macro EVO structure. And it surprised me because on every tier the ratio of the torus was D, almost exactly D4D. And this was interesting because I found that this was the same observation that Bostic had in the 1950s when he was doing what he later called plasmoids. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I'm going to show you a slide from O'Day. So give me a second, I'll just pull it up. Okay. It's slide 78 from O'Day. Okay. If you're still with me, here is slide 78 from O'Day. Everyone know what it is? This is Tesla's 1914 patent for the Wardenclyffe Tower. It may not be that obvious to you, but the torus at the top, is a D4D radius device. David, I don't believe this device is just for transmitting energy. I believe this device is also a generator. And I believe that by having high frequency electricity around that, if you look at the actual shape of the torus, it has a slight in and a slight out. And you can imagine what you've seen, but as a full torus spinning round that top section. And that this would have created a vortex, and the vortex would have cohered matter. And I believe that when this device would operate, you would over time start seeing little magnetite spheres raining down the side of the column. And I also believe that the structure is quite good in terms of an shape energy to create the kind of features that are attempting to be made by the aluminium in our ultra experiment that we are showing today. This is more the kind of morphology of the spikes, the protrusions in the nickel, the carbonyl nickel that is used by Alexander Parkhomov. So I believe that this is not just an energy transmission device. I think that was probably what he wanted to put into the patent, to not scare too many people. But remember, the story goes, as far as I understand it, that JP Morgan didn't want him to move ahead with this, or didn't want to continue funding it when he found out it was going to give people free power. Now, a transmission device is not just giving people free power, is it? You need to make the power first if it's not generating itself. But I believe that this is generating the power itself. And it is creating, it has that D4D radius on it. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Anyway, if you understand what I've been telling you, you will probably be able to guess what slide 80 is, but I'm not going to do that tonight because it is 34 and I have a lot of information to get through to be able to share with you slide 80. And so that's it for tonight. If anyone has any questions, what I will do probably is to share a paper on torsion engineering, and I mean they realized that the beams that these torsion generators would create would produce highly penetrating radiation. Okay, so okay, there's a lot of questions. What I might do is I might read through the questions and come back in the blog to it. The tower definitely needs an atmosphere. I believe that it will be fusing nitrogen 14 and oxygen maybe, but nitrogen 14, 2 nitrogen 14s, 2 silicon. It could take carbon, it could take oxygen, but I eventually think that it will be dropping little magnetite spheres out of it. Come on, just one more. No, I'm not. I'm not ready to do slide 80 yet. Sorry, 79 yet. I wanted to get people closer to realizing the truth in the Tesla Wardenclyffe Tower. It's just such a shame that, you know, that could have been generating unimaginable amounts of energy for more than 100 years. I'm not so sure you can easily build a small Wardenclyffe Tower. You need the height to have the natural electrostatic field difference between it and the ground, because you need to be able to get the tower up to a high potential. I think the actual the dome on the top is very deliberate, and if you think about the structure that I drew everyone's attention to, I think I'm not sure how Tesla came up with this, but he said he used to get downloads from aliens. Maybe he did, or maybe he's attuned to the Akashic record. I don't know, but it's no coincidence that it is the shape it is and that it has the type of torus on the top. It's just no coincidence whatsoever. How safe is the experiment considering what you mentioned in the last few minutes? I think the relatively speaking, you've seen how fast the thing's spinning round. I would imagine a ball lightning. I think if you go and look at the ICCF, sorry, the Sochi 2018 presentations that I shared on the MFMP site from Valeri, he is saying that a ball lightning spins 40,000 to 100,000 times a second. So it will be creating, in my view, its own torsion fields. It depends on its density, I guess. But as I've argued, if it has a coherent matter on the outside, it could actually be extremely dense. There could be a lot of matter that's being spun. And it seems to have a red shift and a blue shift on the side. So that gives you an idea of how fast it's spinning. So I don't know. I've taken 120 frames per second at 1920 by 1080p earlier today. And I'm going to see if we can see anything. If it still looks like it's spinning very, very fast, then we know that it's spinning really fast. So then we need to, I mean, obviously when something comes into those little pits or whatever, it has to be accelerated, and then it might get thrown out before it's decelerated or disappeared, whatever's going on. I think there's an opportunity for someone there to get even much better imagery to establish once and for all that it is being spun down the plug hole or being literally compressed into something very small. When I look at John Hutcheson's 2x2 by 7 inch bar, I imagine one of these forming in the center of the center, as I said the other day, like it formed in the center of the Tom Claytor replications of I've just forgotten his name, but I'm getting tired now. The Roger Stringham experiments, because that's where the sum of all the resonances are at their peak in the center of the center. And so I believe that's what happened, and you had matter being crushed, and it's such a irresistible force that it's sucking the material in from the side, and the actual piece of iron actually twists as it folds over. Okay, so you could imagine that it's twisting, but it might also be trying to form a donut itself. But you know, he turned the field off. So it's squeezing in the middle, it's twisting, and it's turning itself into a loop. I think if you could continue that process and continue it, it would have ended up going into a loop and then just getting smaller and smaller and just basically go out of our reality. Okay, I'm going to have to go because it's 20 to midnight, and I really didn't have a lot for 20 to 1, and I really didn't have a lot for food tonight, and I was tired anyway. But I hope you can go out, and this is an experiment everyone can do, and you know, you can be doing a lot of firsts with seeing this. And to answer Camilo's question earlier, so many people have been told that something is not possible, and that these things that they're seeing are artifacts, when they're actually things that are based in the actual reality of what nature is trying to tell you. And what I showed here and at the beginning of the presentation, is that Solin, who I first discovered in August last year, had literally nailed many of the structures that are showing exactly how this technology works. And the fact that I have seen these structures before and published them before I realized that he had done it, but across many, many different LENR systems, is quite reassuring that this is how it works. And it is all the same thing. And with that, I will say thank you for your time. I know it's been a marathon session, but I had a lot of fun sharing that with you and doing the live microscope session that I'd never seen before. So I wanted to share it with you real time. So sayonara, dobro noc, do svidania, buenas noches, good night.